Dr. Sandra Cheldelin, thank you for taking time with us today to speak about the Virginia mental health system. The Virginia Tech Review panel issued a report last week, as you know, stating that numerous warning signs were not acted on with sufficient urgency and implying that perhaps the killings at Virginia Tech were preventable. In your view, is early warning response, as noted by the panel, sufficient to prevent violence of this nature in the future?
Well, I mean, it's certainly essential to have early warning, some kind of early warning things in place, and Mason has started something like that now as an outcome of that. But no, of course not. It's not sufficient at all. I guess what happens when you have warning systems like this in place, it doesn't go at the root of what's really going on with mental illness and how we deal with mental illness, persons with mental illness. As mental illness, you don't sort of get sick and then stay sick. Your illness comes and goes, and you deteriorate, and then you get better, and then you deteriorate, and you get better, and it depends on whether you stay on your meds or whether you're under some kind of care. So when someone is showing signs of mental illness, such as he was doing, you have to have systems to take care of that, and our systems are broken right now. We don't have adequate systems to take care of that.
In your view, what is broken?
There are a number of things that are broken. The laws are broken around what we mean by the language is called imminent danger, and how we interpret imminent danger. And what we're talking about there is whether I'm a danger to myself or I'm a danger to the public or other members of the public. And what's a danger? Am I just mouthing off and doing something inappropriate, or am I actually making accusations against somebody, or am I saying I might take my life? There's so much gray area in there in terms of what we mean by imminent danger, and so it's really a professional's call to say whether, well, yeah, he's a little odd, but he's not odd enough. And so we need systems in place where an inappropriate behavior can be tracked early on. And the other major problem is that when you're dealing with adults, as we are with this kid who killed these people and then took his own life, is that the parents, who are usually the family members or loved ones of consumers of mental illness, are usually the ones who can detect deterioration early on because they know the range of normal behaviors, and yet they have no rights to get somebody committed to do a 72-hour check on them. They can, until, usually what happens is that some law gets broken, and then they get shifted into the penal system where, you've broken a law, and then it's the judge or the magistrate who makes the decision of whether or not you can give a temporary detention order on them and then get them evaluated. So all of that takes lots of time. It takes, usually the person's mental illness is deteriorating quickly. And so if we don't have good backup systems to help people once we know that they will be a consumer of mental health services, then we're stuck with this. They have to do something really inappropriate that breaks a rule.
In your recent 2007 report, which analyzed Virginia mental health services, you met with over 70 mental health service consumers, family members, law enforcement officials, magistrates, justices, and community service board members from 5 Virginia counties. What was their assessment of Virginia's ability to effectively respond to mental illness?
I think it was mixed. I think the common theme was that the system wasn't responsive enough. The common theme was also that we need alternatives to an involuntary detention program that we have right now in place. For example, if I am a consumer of mental illness or mental health, I have a mental illness of some sort, and I'm not doing well, unless I say, I'm not doing very well, you need to stick me in a hospital for a while. Unless I say that, I'm not going to be going into a hospital until I do something inappropriate. My experience as a consumer of mental health services is that once you you voluntarily agree to do this, you quickly learn that you shouldn't have done that. You're shackled, you're treated like a criminal, you're sitting in jails, you're with police all the time, you're clearly second, third class citizens. And therefore, mental health consumers unanimously reported that they'll do everything they can to keep from anyone thinking that they're mentally ill in order not to be involuntarily committed. So if I knew I wasn't doing well and I didn't want to be involuntarily committed, but I could go to some other alternative, then I would do that. I could go to I could be assigned to that patient placement. I could say my meds aren't working. I could probably monitor my behavior better as a consumer of mental health services if I knew that it wasn't either, I break a law or I end up involuntarily committed for what could be up to a month or 2 months or 3 months, when all I really need is to get my meds tracked again and back on board.
Last week's Washington Post op-ed argued that public safety should trump privacy rights when it comes to responding to mental illness. What concerns might mental health service providers and consumers have with the Post's proposal?
Well, it's always down to the individual versus what's good for the community or society. And I think that tension's a healthy tension. I think it keeps us all honest. That's why I think I would go for trying to find some kinds of activities or services that are available that help, so it's not a black or white individual versus society situation. Most people who are consumers of mental health services are not going to end up killing people and themselves. Most illnesses are many people can do very well, coping quite well, and get along in society. Maybe not as well as you're doing, but they can manage, they can hold jobs as long as they stay on their medications and continue with treatment. It's usually when you think you're doing, the pattern is typically, okay, I got these pills, okay, I'm feeling better, I don't need those pills, I'm going to stop taking these pills. And then I don't feel good, and then I get depressed, and then, oh well, it's hopeless anyway, and so you really start down a spiral path. And if you can, at that point, get an intervention, usually a family member can help with the intervention. Right now they can't because of the rights of privacy for the individual once they're an adult. It's easier when they're young, but schizophrenia and much of mental illness happens in late adolescence or early adulthood, not when they're real young. So, well, to answer your question, I think I'd go back and say I don't think it should be either or. I think there are states that have got some really nice systems in place. New York, for example, has Kendra's Law, which is an alternative to the imminent danger law we have right now.
Thank you, Dr. Cheldelin, for your time. We appreciate you taking time to speak with us about mental health in the state of Virginia.